Builder Week.
Welcome everyone to Columbia, South Carolina, and welcome to ESPN College Basketball. You're watching the SEC on ESPN on the first Saturday in March. Number 17, Kentucky, taking on the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Let's take a look at the standings in the conference. Up to the minute, up to date, Kentucky at 11-4. Florida's already clinched. Kentucky finishes up Tuesday with Alabama, and then the big one against Florida to finish off the regular season. But so much to talk about before we get to that point. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones, chopping it up courtside along with Jimmy Dykes. Hey, it's March, the best time of the year for college basketball, Jimmy. But for Kentucky, coming off that loss a couple of days ago against Arkansas, Willie Cauley-Stein, one of the holdovers from last year, reminded his teammates of last year's meltdown. It's about urgency right now for Kentucky.
Absolutely it is. You know, first of all, congratulations to Tony Bennett and Virginia for locking up the ACC title. You know, they started playing with urgency in January because they had a beatdown in Knoxville to the hands of the Tennessee Volunteers. But from that point forward, you know, Virginia had an urgency about them. They changed how they were playing. They changed who they are. Well, John Calipari is still waiting for that flip to be switched with his young Kentucky team. They cannot get outworked, they cannot get out tough, and they have to be more together than they've been all season long. It's now March. If Kentucky figures it out, like Virginia did 2 months ago, then this Kentucky team is going to be very hard to handle in that NCAA tournament.
Calipari, like the building, waiting for the light to come on for his young team. Part of their woes, Jimmy, have been at the offensive end of the floor. How do they begin to even remedy that as we take a look at our one-on-ones?
But, Jonesy, we're looking at a team, Kentucky, that can still dominate you on the offensive glass. The problem is all their big dudes have been missing shots around the rim. In the last two ball games, they're shooting 41% from two and only 20% from three. Those numbers aren't going to hold up against a good ball club in March. For South Carolina, if you're Kentucky, you cannot let Brenton Williams beat you today. This kid's averaging 24 points. He's a hot shooter right now from the three-point line over the last three games. Kentucky better be locked in on Brenton Williams.
Brenton Williams averaging 14.7 points per game as we take a look at the starting lineups. Brought to you by Michelin. First for Kentucky, the Harrison twins in the backcourt. James Young, Julius Randle having a breakout of his mini slump, and Dakari Johnson in the middle for the Wildcats at 21-7 overall. Meanwhile, for the home team, South Carolina, Williams, Thornwell in the backcourt, Demetrius Henry, the freshman out of Miami, in the middle, Michael Carrera, who's had somewhat of an underwhelming season so far at forward, and Mindaugas Kaichinas, the other forward for South Carolina, who's trying to snap a 6-game losing streak at the hands of the Wildcats. South Carolina in the white, Kentucky in the blue, and you see a lot of blue in the stands here at Colonial Life Arena as we are underway. This is Andrew Harrison up court, working against Sindarius Thornwell. Here's Harrison off the dribble handoff from Randle.
Jonesy, South Carolina starts man-to-man defense. They've been playing specifically zone for the last 2 weeks. But you watch Kentucky's man-to-man offense, they're easier to guard man-to-man than they are zone.
Randle that time had it blocked by Carrera from behind. Henry swings it around weak side. Here's Williams. Thornwell rimmed out and rebounded by James Young.
The reason why I say Kentucky's easier to guard in man-to-man is because the ball gets stuck. The ball gets stagnant. The movement gets stagnant. John Calipari specifically has put some man-to-man plays in today that forces his guys to pass.
That foul, Jimmy, going to be against Sindarius Thornwell. That's his first personal foul. And when you look at John Calipari, a lot of mental gymnastics and massaging with this very young team. Jimmy, you go back to last week when we watched them and called that game against LSU. There was a narrow escape in that one as well. So this has been kind of a cumulative issue for Calipari.
Yeah, they are a Julius Randle putback away from losing 3 in a row in Rupp Arena to Florida and LSU and Arkansas. And I went back and watched that Arkansas game in preparation for this one, and Arkansas was so much more together just down the stretch in terms of how they huddled and why they huddled and their body language, all those things that John Calipari still a work in progress with his young team, and now they start with a tandem zone up top with the two twins.
Here's Williams. Takes it into the seam. Thornwell into Henry inside. The freshman turns and fires. And rebounded by Julius Randle, who knocked Kaichinas into the first row almost. Dakari Johnson wheeling to the bucket and one. That was a big boy move by Dakari Johnson, the freshman out of Brooklyn.
Mark, we talked about the offensive struggles for Kentucky the last 2 ball games from the 2-point part of the floor. Dakari Johnson that time does a good job of making sure that his right shoulder cleared out space before he went up with a shot. At times this year he's done too many things off balance around the rim. That time he was on balance.
This is the free throw, but Kentucky with a 3-0 lead. South Carolina trying to bounce back after losing their last game against Auburn. They've in fact lost 3 straight. And speaking of youthful, inexperienced teams, this Gamecock team, 7 freshmen and 8 newcomers this year.
I like this Kentucky zone. It's kind of a tandem 1-3-1 zone initially. Will transfer into a 2-3 zone once that ball gets to the free throw line or lower.
Williams, the shooter, kicks it out to Carrera with 7 on the shot clock, and he drills the 3.
He's a key guy, Carrera is, because he won't fight you. Now his switch is not always on, but he's also been a terrific rebounder the last 2 ball games, pulling down a total of 25.
Ties the game at 3. And Carrera hustling over the top of that screen to knock it out of bounds. Frank Martin, the second-year head coach, and really doing a lot of the mental massaging with his young team that Calipari, his counterpart, has been doing. Former head coach at Kansas State, where his teams average 23 wins a year. So it's a building process at South Carolina.
And again, I like the move by Frank Martin to start this game man-to-man. I think he'll then go zone throughout the middle part of the game to conserve energy for his guards. If he likes his man, he'll probably go to it at the end of the game if they're still in it.
Just 4 on the shot clock for Harrison. Way strong. And back comes South Carolina. Didn't hit anything, so it's a shot clock violation.
Well, that's a break for Kentucky because South Carolina had a 5-on-4 number situation with Johnson hung up in the press roll.
Barnwell, the primary ball handler for South Carolina in lieu of Tyrone Johnson. Villanova transfer, who was averaging 11 points a game, suffered an injury and is done for the season, broke his foot. Carrera with a strong move, might have gotten away with a push and got the stick back to go. You know what, Jimmy? His motor's actually running today.
Yeah, well, you know what? Frank Martin jump-started his motor during the shoot-around. And Carrera's one of those guys that if Kentucky doesn't get after him now, he can be a real problem because of his size and his quickness advantage at that 4 spot.
Great hustle by Thornwell to get on the deck out of bounds, and a foul going to go against the Gamecocks.
Carrera very aggressive to start this ballgame. He's already knocked down a 3. But then James Young just has no resistance at all on a guy that's a good driver, not a great driver. But Young gave him an angle, and then the shoulder strength of Carrera just whipped him.
That's the 2nd personal foul, Jimmy, against Demetrius Henry, who has to sit down. 3 team fouls against the Gamecocks, none against Kentucky. And Ringer, Desmond Ringer, another freshman, 6'9", comes in, replacing the other freshman, Demetrius Henry.
South Carolina zone Jones on the out-of-bounds play. And normally Kentucky really gets that ball moving to the 3rd side well. A little late so far in this one. 17 on the shot clock, and there's still the ball up top.
Jared Polson checked in during the last break, tipped away. Kaitchenis with great hustle. It's going to be Kentucky basketball with just 9 seconds to go on the shot clock. They have to get into this offensive set very quickly.
John Calipari has gone to Jared Polson early in this game. Felt like he played way too many minutes with Andrew Harrison on the floor against Arkansas.
3 on the shot clock, and it's blocked by Thornwell. Thornwell at about 6'5", giving you great size at guard. And the ability to do this too, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great opportunity for Harrison to use a shot fake. Now he lobbed to Willie Cauley-Stein at the rim with 2 seconds to go.
Got to do something quickly. Polson will not get the shot off. Well defended by the Gamecocks. That's one thing that Frank Martin teams always do well. They'll play good defense in the half court. And it looks like Andrew Harrison is going to check in for his twin brother, Aaron Harrison. Andrew with 14 points and 3 assists, one of the few bright spots in that loss against Arkansas. Kentucky trying to avoid its first losing streak of the season.
South Carolina shooting an SEC best 37% from the 3-point line, but an SEC worst 44% from 2. So any baskets by the Gamecocks inside the 3-point line are a big bonus for this ball club.
That's a real puzzling stat, isn't it?
Very
As Brenton Williams shoots an air ball. Actually, it was a lot of the African, West Indian, Caribbean flavors, Cajun, Creole as well. Nothing beats shrimp and grits, Jimmy.
Can we phone them on the way out of here?
I hope they
for
deliver.
Delivery?
Yes.
Wow.
Please. And right now, Coach Calipari looking for the right recipe for his young team. 7 on the shot clock for the Gamecocks. Out of the timeout, Thornwell with the mismatch on Cauley Stein, but couldn't make him pay. And Carrera didn't put it back up. That's a shot clock violation. I'm not sure that hit anything. And a despondent-looking head coach, Frank Martin. Frank Martin telling us that, and you can sense a little bit more patient this year with 7 freshmen and 8 newcomers.
But the concern I have for South Carolina man-to-man is, can they handle Julius Randle? And Kentucky has to test that spot and get Randle touches.
Low-scoring game so far. There's a touch, Jimmy, for Randle, who's been in an offensive slump. Missing with the right hand. Cauley Stein battling underneath. And he draws the foul from Desmond Ringer. What do you make of the pace and the tempo of this game so far? Who does it favor, if anyone?
I don't think it's been established yet. It's
okay.
Kind of a herky-jerky ball game so far. And South Carolina, again, they get off at the three-point line. Kentucky has to chase them off the three-point line all night long.
Long jumper by Young is good. Kentucky not a great three-point shooting team. And they take a 6-5 lead. Thornwell out top.
I like Thornwell a lot. He's actually probably about an inch taller than either one of those Harrison twins. His next step in terms of development is playing low as a 6'6" point guard, something that Michael Carter-Williams for Syracuse really didn't get a hold of until about halfway through his second year.
There's Brenton Williams, their leading scorer, been kind of quiet so far. Took Polson to the cup, and he'll go to the free throw line and try and knock down 2. Our coverage of College Hoops continues tonight with a showdown in the Big 12 as Andrew Wiggins leads the Jayhawks against Marcus Smart and the Cowboys. Saturday primetime presented by DirecTV, part of Bracket Builder Week. Kansas, Oklahoma State tonight at 9 on ESPN, also on Watch ESPN. Williams at the foul line. He leads the conference in free throw shooting at almost 96% on the year. He made a school record 50 straight at one point. Had 26 points in that last game, their loss to Auburn.
Mark, he can really shoot the ball, but he has kind of a low release as a three-point shooter. So there's a reason why his percentage is high, because he only takes open good looks. He can't make guarded shots, therefore he really has outstanding feel for shot selection.
Nothing wrong with staying in your lane, right? On offense, especially as officials taking a look at something at the scorer's table.
Now watch Brenton Williams here. I've talked about how good he is as a three-point shooter, so it sets him up to be about a half step quicker than he actually is, because you have to crowd him and not let him dial it up. A good offensive start for Williams to mix up a hard drive to balance out his threes.
Gamecocks leading by 1. Played a little over 5.5 minutes in this ball game. Harrison to his twin brother, Andrew.
And now can you handle Willie Cauley-Stein would be what I would want to have answered right now if I'm Kentucky.
Being guarded by Kaichenis. To play the ball screen well, Dwayne Notice has checked into the ball game. Olsen missing the 3 ball. Great offensive rebound, and that's what the Big Blue Nation does. They pound you on the offensive glass.
Better than anyone in the country. And because they can do that, I think they could get into a situation in that NCAA tournament where they win a game that they probably shouldn't win, but the only reason why they do is because they pound and pound and pound you on that offensive glass.
There's Notice on the wing. Notice in a little bit of a slump the last couple of games. Driving on Cauley-Stein. Inside, Carrera had it blocked, but he drew the foul on Harrison. That's Aaron Harrison who commits the foul. They're going to call it on the shot, and Carrera will get 2.
Jones, it's interesting. Kentucky has no problem switching anything 1 through 5. So at some point within the possession, a ton of times when you're playing Kentucky, they force you to play one-on-one, and normally that's Kentucky's advantage.
Carrera, meanwhile, knocks down the foul shot. 65% free throw shooter. A 6'5" sophomore from Venezuela. And now officials Mike Nance, Kevin Fair, and Tim Gaddis trying to fix a clock issue with 13:23 to go here in the first half of play. Nice crowd here at Colonial Life Arena. And couldn't help but notice there's a big smattering of blue in the crowd here.
If the building seats 18,000, there's at least 10,000 Kentucky fans here.
Somebody sold their tickets, Jimmy. I'm not telling who.
That's the power of the Big Blue Nation.
There's Poitras. Frank Martin really establishing a culture here in his second year. Staying the course. Getting his young team to buy into the process. Harrison, I think that was a pass. Poitras couldn't finish. And Carrera with the rebound and a foul against Poitras.
South Carolina very aggressive in this ball game, guarding the ball at all 5 spots. Just climbing into the jerseys of Kentucky, forcing them to make a play with the ball instead of run plays.
And Carrera getting a well-deserved breather on the bench. 3 team fouls against Kentucky, 4 against the Gamecocks. Thornwell up court, neither team in double-digit scoring yet. There's Ringer. Going to be a whistle, a foul going to be called against Andrew Harrison. And that gets James Young off the bench. That's Harrison's second. Andrew with 2. What kind of issue, if at all, does it present for Calipari?
I don't think John Calipari knows, because he doesn't know what he's going to get from game to game out of Andrew Harrison. John Calipari saying the same contact on that end, you're letting go, and we're getting called for it on this end.
Here's Dwayne Notice, the native of Toronto, Canada. Over to Steele. Steele off the screen, back to Notice.
Making Kentucky work to that 4th or 5th pass. Does it pay off?
Nice drive and kick. Williams from the corner, short. Williams telling me his best spot, his favorite spot from 3-point territory is that foul line extended area. That time missing from the baseline. Young with a tough drive and draws the foul on South Carolina. James Young going to go to the free throw line. That one's going to go against Kaichenis.
Really, South Carolina bailed out James Young. It was the first pass. The defense was set. He took it right into the teeth of the defense and was going away from the rim. Don't bail him out. He has struggled from the free throw stripe. Couldn't close out. We made free throws against Arkansas the other night.
Right around 50% in that overtime loss to the Razorbacks. That's been one of the more perplexing things for Calipari this year. James Young had 11 points in that loss.
Mark, I think James Young, next time he goes to free throw stripe, I'll talk about it. I think he gets his feet too close together. His feet have a different base as a free throw shooter than when he's a jump shooter, and that should not be the case.
Kaichenis. Williams out top. Williams on the drive, forced to take a tough one. And Frank Martin with his palm skyward, looking for a call, won't get it. Polson now. Aaron Harrison with a nice spin move. And a foul going to go against South Carolina. Julius Randle getting a breather on the bench, trying to snap out of that mini slump, and coach trying to catch a break somewhere. Back after South Carolina, you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Bracket Builder Week, the first Saturday in March when things really start to heat up, and Julius Randle still trying to do just that.
Well, this is the guy that Frank Martin's concerned with in this ball game, trying to defend him. Here's the reason. The isolation plays where he's purely one-on-one. He's below 1 point per play at 0.7. And then in true post-ups, he's also below 1 point per play at 0.9, but still a really good number in terms of true post-up. Now is where he starts getting his damage done. In transition, he's over 1 point per play, Jonesy, because of his big body and his willingness on the defensive end to get out and scramble, and he'll get a breakaway about once every 2 or 3 ball games. As a cutter, because he has great hands, he's at 1.2 points per play. And this is where he absolutely mashes people. He gets away with a push on this replay, but he's getting 1.2 points per play, and he finishes about 60% of the time. Now, there's a reason why there's a difference in his numbers. Those first 2 plays, isolations and true post-up, is where he will face a double team. You can double team him in the isolation one-on-one. You can double team him on a true post-up. Therefore, he's below 1 point per play. these other three areas, transition, offensive rebounding, and cutters, you're not going to double team. That's an action move, and therefore he really thrives in those areas. So if I'm Kentucky in this ball game, you want him cutting, you want him in transition, and obviously on the offensive glass.
Been an evolution for Julius Randle as well as the rest of his freshman teammates this year. A very highly heralded class. One of those guys at the foul line right now, Aaron Harrison, at 79% on the season. Harrison coming off a tough night against Arkansas, just 2 of 12 against the Razorbacks. Jimmy, tell you what, the Razorbacks, one of those really burgeoning, successful teams right now. They've found another gear in the SEC.
They've gone from not in the tournament conversation 10 days ago to they're ahead of 5 or 6 teams right now. Another win today by Arkansas at home against Georgia. Arkansas was tougher in that ball game. Let me tell you why. They did not miss a free throw. Kentucky in that ball game, they weren't tough enough to make free throws. Forget about your stroke. Are you tough enough to make them in game-winning times?
Thornwell rebounds the Williams miss. They'll get another possession, South Carolina. Ringer rolled to the bucket. Randle right with him, though. Cauley-Stein on the mismatch against Thornwell. Boy, Kentucky closing out and contesting really well, but a fortuitous bounce by Dwayne Notice. Freshman trying to snap out of his ill-fated shooting of late. He's got his first bucket. 1 point Kentucky lead.
I think the more times that Julius Randle is 30 feet from the basket, that favors South Carolina.
Aaron Harrison running the point right now. Drives it into traffic. Good catch in traffic by Cauley-Stein, but he couldn't get the shot off. 7 on the shot clock. Here's Young on the move. And an offensive rebound by Poitras. You got to block out when it comes to the Wildcats. Another offensive rebound and another possession.
Yeah, you're not going to out-jump Kentucky's size around the rim. You have to whip them from the waist down by getting into their legs before the jumping action occurs.
There's Poitras out front. Aaron Harrison. Young off the pin down. Poitras literally bumping into his own teammate with 3 on the shot clock. Boy, you work it around. Oh, what a follow by Poitras. Couldn't quite get it to go. Randle follows, pardon me, and a foul by Carrera. Not quite sure about what they were doing offensively that time, Jimmy. They made a lot of passes, but ended up with a contested 18-footer.
Yeah, and every guy that caught it tried to do his own deal and go one-on-one. That's what I'm talking about. Kentucky still in their man-to-man half-court offense. There's nothing fluid about it. It's normally one guy with the ball and 4 guys watching the one guy try to go to work. But then they get bailed out at the end because they are so powerful on the offensive glass.
Julius Randle missing the first of 2 foul shots. He's a 72% free throw shooter on the season. Kentucky already with 9 offensive rebounds and a 2-point lead past the midway point of the first half. I guess if you're South Carolina and Frank Martin at this point, Jimmy, say, hey, I'll take this so far, right?
Well, considering Kentucky's getting 75% of their misses in this ball game so far. If South Carolina doesn't answer that problem, then this Kentucky team's going to be in good shape. Just a straight 2-3 zone that Kentucky will now lift up awfully high, make it look like a Syracuse zone in terms of how high they lifted it. It becomes a 4-round 1.
He swings it around Thornwell. The little drive and kick. Notice on the drive. Met resistance and rejected by Cauley-Stein. Numbers the other way. Harrison with the Euro step and a nice left-handed finish. There was an inadvertent whistle, it looked like. No call. And the bucket counts. Let's take one more look.
I'm not sure what the whistle was for, unless Mike Nance was just wanting to make sure that Willie Cauley-Stein was okay on the other end. I think that's what I think he blew the whistle to make sure that Cauley-Stein was up and okay, and then we resumed play.
4-point Wildcat lead.
Look how high Kentucky will lift that zone. That time all 5 guys were from the mid part of the lane higher. They trust their length and almost dare you to throw over the top of it toward the baseline.
That last foul against Dakari Johnson, his first personal foul. Brenton Williams has been quiet so far. Flared out to the corner. Carrera couldn't find it. Under 9 minutes to go in the first half. Thornwell on top.
Williams may struggle against the length and the size that Kentucky can throw at him because the kid's only 5'10".
Thornwell on the blow-by. And a foul on the play against the Wildcats for Kentucky. Another team foul. That's the second against Cauley-Stein. And that's their 6th team foul. Well, the last time Kentucky faced this much adversity, Jimmy, they were coming off a loss against Florida. And in the ensuing game against Ole Miss, I think you called that game with Brad Nessler on ESPN. It was a situation there where they responded very well in that game. We'll see if they can do it again here today.
Yeah, absolutely they did. And you know, if this is a team that's going to believe or have a conviction about them, there's a big difference.
Notice left wide open, missed it. And a 2-on-1. Poitras on the move. Got his own rebound. Got it blocked by Carrera, whistling a foul. And Kentucky continues to just be unrelenting and unremitting on the glass offensively.
That's probably what Kentucky does best right now, is rip that ball off the defensive glass and then flood the floor with size and pound you on the offensive glass. Mark, I talked about the difference in believing and conviction. If you believe in something, you will argue about it. If you have conviction in something, you'll die for it. Until Kentucky gets a conviction about how they're going to play right now, they're still vulnerable.
Well, let's take a look, Jimmy, at the smart investments that Kentucky's offensive rebounding and second chance points have made this season. Brought to you by TD Ameritrade. Some impressive numbers by the Wildcats. Couldn't get that offensive rebound, though, and there's going to be a foul on the play against Julius Randle. That's his first. 17 foul, and now South Carolina's Michael Carrera will go to the free throw line. Gamecocks down by 5, coming in at 10-18 this year overall, 3-12 in conference play. And Frank Martin telling us this morning at shoot around that for them, beyond the wins and losses, he's getting his team to buy into the process of working hard to improve every game. His team that has been beset, Jimmy, by some key injuries. You know, they lost Tyrone Johnson, and not to mention the leadership of two-sport star Bruce Ellington, who was a key part of this team.
When Bruce Ellington practiced with South Carolina and played 3 games, he's here for about a 10-day period. The competitive level went up. And that's, boy, Bruce Ellington's a guy that brings positive peer pressure to people. This is a young South Carolina team, Jonesy, that doesn't have a point guard. Think about that. A young team with no point guard. But they have continued to fight. Only 2 times this year, Frank has been disappointed in their effort.
Well, Frank Martin has a great point guard coming in out of high school next year. Marcus Stroman from the state of South Carolina here, local kid. Approaching 8 minutes to go here in the first half. The zone has the Gamecocks a little bit hesitant offensively. A lot of contested shots. The lob up top. I'm not sure if Carrera was ever going to get over the top of Dakari Johnson. That doesn't seem like a good matchup, Jimmy.
That's what I'm talking about. Kentucky, they trust their size, they lift the zone, and they say almost, go ahead, try to throw a lob.
Inside the play, Jimmy.
But look what Kentucky does, how high they can lift their zone, first of all, but then secondly, watch Dakari Johnson feel the action. He feels the back screen being set, and he rolls off of it, knowing that it's some type of a lob play. That's a terrific job by a young kid to feel the action. He felt the back screen being set from behind, rolls off of it, and protects the rim. Very well done by Dakari Johnson.
3 on the shot clock. Thornwell got to go with it. The floater short. And rebounded by Julius Randle, who is yet to score in this game still. Young fires away and knocks down the mid-range shot. Gamecocks run it right back at Kentucky and 1. The man of steel, Brian Steele. And John Calipari incensed on the sidelines that his team would give up a fast break, Jimmy, after a make like that.
Well, and that's on Aaron Harrison, the guard spot right now. He cannot get sucked into the action when Kentucky's attacking on the run.
Nice finish by Steele. Couldn't complete the three-point play. Gamecocks down by 4. 7.5 minutes to go here in the first half. Is this a time of game where Calipari makes a concerted effort to get Julius Randle going a little bit?
You know, I think he trusts Julius Randle to get himself going.
Okay.
Now, I'm with you. I would call his number right now, looking out on the floor. Who can check Julius Randle on that low block? Nobody.
I'm still looking.
That's the answer. Yeah, that's the answer.
Henry's going to try right now as he checks back into the ball game for Michael Carrera.
This will probably be a zone out of bounds underlook by South Carolina. Short clock. Kentucky's got to get that ball moving right off the bat.
Swinging around to Poitras. Young drives it into traffic, drew the contact from Williams, and he'll go to the free throw line for a pair. Well, Sunday at 1 o'clock on ESPN, Trisha Liston and the Blue Devils head into Chapel Hill to take on Diamond DeShields and the Tar Heels in a heated conference matchup. Then Monday at 7 on ESPN2, a highly anticipated showdown. Brianna Stewart, number 1 UConn, look to continue their pursuit of perfection when they face Shoni Schimmel and number 3 Louisville. Women's college basketball, part of Bracket Builder Week. Both games also live on Watch ESPN. And boy, Brianna Stewart leading the Huskies at almost 20 points a game as they continue to look indomitable on their schedule.
We may very well have 2 teams on the women's side start that NCAA tournament without a loss.
I really like Diamond DeShields' game, the daughter of Delano DeShields, former great outfielder. Thornwell on the drive and one.
Mark, how does that happen? Off of a free throw situation, Kentucky cannot get their defense set. And this kid here is going to be a handful to guard. And Kentucky misses off the offensive rebound, but now watch, the blue jerseys are running, but they're not running with a purpose. And Alex Poitras, not aware of where the basketball is, actually sets a moving screen on Harrison himself and allows Thornwell to get to the rack.
Thornwell completes the three-point play. That was the second foul against Poitras. And it's a 2-point ball game with just under 7 minutes to go here in the first half. Kentucky trying to avoid its first 2-game losing streak of the season. Olsen running the point. Kentucky shooting 5 of 22 from the field. Their offense very arrhythmic right now without any flow. Young might have gotten away with a walk. Whistle and a foul going to go against South Carolina as they continue to try to keep Julius Randle off the offensive glass. That's going to go against Carrera. That's his second personal foul.
The only offense that Kentucky has right now is just driving the ball with strength through contact, getting it up on the rim, and getting an offensive rebound. Now, that might work on the road against South Carolina, who's down at the bottom of the SEC. That will not work in March in the NCAA tournament. Their half-court offense has to go to another level in terms of ball movement and people movement quickly in the next 2 weeks.
Julius Randle on the scoreboard. 3 points now in the ball game.
Mark, if you're not moving the ball and you're not moving people, you're not moving the defense. There's too many good defensive teams out there that can just clamp this stuff off for Kentucky right now.
Thornwell on the drive. Nice feed inside to Demetrius Henry for the bucket. Sindarius Thornwell, as a freshman, has been asked to do so much under duress and tough circumstances. Randle on the drive and kick. Young makes the catch, but Thornwell and a couple of other guys playing big, heavy minutes for South Carolina.
Like what Frank Martin said about Thornwell. He cares. How simple and important is that in any area of life?
There's a guy that cares. Randle. Great effort to earn another trip to this free throw strike.
And Darius Thornwell is 6'5", and as he learns to play lower, he's going to become a better passer inside the defense and a better finisher because he's going to have a better, stronger base which can't knock him off balance. That's a couple of key areas for this kid going forward. Playing the game on balance, playing the game lower, and becoming a little bit more of a trusted jump shooter.
He leads the conference, the SEC freshman actually, in scoring in conference play. As Julius Randle, another quiet game so far offensively, has 5 points, 6 rebounds though. On pace for a double-double. Has 15 of them coming in, and that's going to be a technical foul. Kevin Fair lit up Calipari with a tee. Calipari livid about something there on the sidelines.
It might be an accumulation of stuff. Is sometimes how officials look at it. Because John Calipari's been on them about what he feels like his contact on one end is not being called equally on the other. Now that's through his eyes. But you're right, Kevin Fair has had enough of an accumulation probably of John Calipari. I don't think there was a hot button word that was said specifically. It was probably just said, Coach, enough is enough is enough.
And Williams knocks down the free throws. Make it a 2-point game, under 6 minutes to go in the first half. Couldn't have drawn it up any better if you're a Gamecock supporter. And Frank Martin with his young team, an understaffed team right now because of a key injury and another player that left right in this ball game. Thornwell, and cleared by Randall.
Well, the ones you have to make against Kentucky. You get that ball around the rim. A clean look that was missed by Thornwell.
This is Aaron Harrison out top.
Again, Randall 30 feet from the basket in this entire half-court possession so far.
But Randall was looking at Harrison with a real puzzled look, as if to say, why didn't you give me the ball? Harrison on the drive. Had it partially blocked, but there was a foul called. That foul is going to go against Thornwell, his second personal foul.
Well, you know Frank Martin right now on that bench for South Carolina is thinking one key thought. Can we guard the basketball? That's the one problem that they're having in this game. They can't guard the ball, therefore they can't guard the rim. They can't get it off the board.
Harrison knocks down the first of two shots, 79%, as Drew Harrison comes in. When we saw Kentucky last Saturday against LSU, it was interesting that Calipari was telling us that he's starting to implement that zone a little bit more, and maybe playing a little bit more zone than he wants to at this point, Jimmy?
Well, I think his team's built to do it.
Okay.
I'm not sure he trusts his guards to really lock down the entire possession. Now, I see Kentucky slapping the floor. Here's what I like about that. It tells me that they're trying to be engaged defensively. But if you don't come out of that stance after you slap the floor and fight it for 35 seconds, the only thing it does is hurt your hands.
Great point. Thornwell over to notice. Thornwell for three. Got it!
He's a big-time guard now in terms of a development.
6 points for him, and it's a 1-point game.
And now South Carolina goes to a 2-3 zone. Kentucky's been good against the zone all year. They go to their mash action on that low block for Julius Randle.
Randle squares up at the elbow. Harrison out to Young, maybe their best perimeter shooter, but off the mark. Rebounded inside, and Henry ties up Dakari Johnson. The possession arrow in favor of Kentucky.
What you like about Thornwell, he's only a 31% three-point shooter, but he really shoots it with confidence. I thought he snapped it off really well this morning in the shoot-around. And because, again, he's 6'5", 6'6", you can see that rim against the long arms of Kentucky.
One of those great high school programs, Oak Hill Academy. Harrison from outside. And they still can't keep Kentucky off the glass. And that's going to be a charge.
John Calipari has to walk away from the action right now. He's already picked up one. He didn't like the call. I saw him tell Julius Randle 90 seconds ago when the tee was set, I'm okay. He's under control.
Been a rough day so far for Andrew Harrison. Unable to get into any kind of flow, and that's his third personal foul.
Jonesy, we do have a problem, though, in college basketball. I see way too many coaches. I would not put Calipari in this group. Way too many coaches with vulgar language just continuous for 2 hours on officials right in front of an athletic director or a school president that sits behind the bench and watches it the entire time and says the official should take care of it. No, you as a school president and as an athletic director should take care of your head coach.
Gamecocks with a 1-point lead. Good ball reversal. Harrison way off. Might have been a pass to Dakari Johnson.
That was a my-turn shot by Harrison with 16 on the shot clock.
And coach is starting to heat up. He's hot, like July. All right, thanks a lot, Todd. A very interesting, intriguing day here, the first Saturday in the month of March, as college basketball really starts to heat up. There's a look at some cogent numbers so far. Kentucky doing what they do on the offensive glass, Jimmy.
It's really amazing. Kentucky is 5 out of 27 from the field in this game. They're shooting 18%, but they have 16 offensive rebounds, and it's a matter of time before they start converting at a higher rate. And if South Carolina can't hold their own and do battle when the ball is above the rim, it'll be very difficult for them to pull off the upset. But right now they're still hanging in there even with that numbering.
Takari Johnson, a 47% free throw shooter, goes 1 for 2. We're tied at 26 as we approach 3 minutes to go here in the first half. Williams sets the screen, little pick and pop action.
Thornwell has a height advantage over Polson.
Floater rimmed out, kept alive by Thornwell. Loose ball, and it's going to be South Carolina, Kentucky ball. Well, ESPN's Journey to the Tourney features an ACC showdown when Marcus Page and the Tar Heels take on Jabari Parker and Duke. The Journey to the Tourney, North Carolina Duke, next Saturday at 9 on ESPN, also live on Watch ESPN. Parker averaging about 19 points a game right now, and Page at about 18 a game, and a bunch of dimes too. Under 3 minutes to go in the half. Bad entry pass, and Kentucky turns it over.
James Young is one of the worst passers in the SEC.
Good follow by Ringer, couldn't get the putback to go, and Polson controls. And Young,
I'm telling you,
what did you just say?
He's one of the worst passers in the SEC. Back to possessions, back it up.
2 empty trips down the floor for the Wildcats as their offensive woes continue.
Look at the movement by South Carolina, Jonesy, in their half-court offense compared to Kentucky. They're moving, they're cutting. Multiple guys are getting touches. It's not one guy trying to go one-on-one.
And Williams knocks down a nice pull-up. South Carolina leading by 2. Williams with 6. He's their leading scorer at 14.7 per game. Inside, Johnson fouled by Desmond Ringer with 1:51 to go in the first half. Takari Johnson can make another trip. That's the 3rd foul against Ringer. And that's going to bring Lamonis Ikevichus off the bench for Frank Martin and into the ball game, a little bit more length.
Calipari last week in Lexington talking to his guys about respect your position and impact you have as a Kentucky basketball player. And today there's a sweet little young man named George Johnson who diagnosed with leukemia as a 12-year-old. He's currently going through the 2 or 3 year process that it's going to take him to whip that disease, and I have faith that he's going to do it. His dad Jim, his mom Amy here today, but that's one of the things he told his parents that he would sure like to do while he's battling leukemia is go watch Kentucky firsthand. So they made the 3.5-hour drive from the Atlanta area, and Coach Cal good enough to spend a lot of time with him after practice today. But boy, the impact and the power that Kentucky basketball has can reach a lot of people, as well as it should.
Great point, Jimmy. Well said. 28 apiece with 1:40 to go in the first half. Thornwell out top. Williams coming loose off that baseline screen. Great pass to Ikevichus. And shot.
Can't deliver a pocket pass any better for a wide open 12-footer and then shoot at 16.
Randall double teamed and forced to kick it out. Harrison with nowhere to go. 18 on the shot clock. South Carolina so far able to withstand Kentucky's best shot. Harrison with the pull-up, and his struggles continue. Not a great shooting half for the Wild. 7 freshmen, 8 newcomers. Telling us prior to the game, he says, we've fought every game so far this year, and we've battled, except for maybe 2 where we might have let go of the rope a little bit. But a great effort today. Thornwell for the lead. Got it!
Well, Jonesy, Kentucky comes out and goes through a 1-2, 1-1 diamond press, but then they don't quickly transition to find a shooter once they go to quarter-court zone. Thornwell burns them.
Kentucky's last field goal was at the 7:45 mark. Randall. Randall with the Wild shot, rebounded by South Carolina. Now they can run it down and get one shot and go into the locker room with the lead.
I would take the very last shot if I'm South Carolina, obviously. It's not a great offensive rebounding club they have on the floor. Just get one good one right now.
3 seconds, the floater. Bounced a couple times, Henry, and it won't count. The officials were waving it off. But a discombobulated, disconcerted, disappointing first half for the Kentucky Wildcats. They trail by 3. They got 20 minutes to battle back. We're going to go to the studio. Seth and Todd, you know that Kentucky offense right now looking like a 3 a.m. shift at the Waffle House. They got to fix something. Welcome back, everyone, to the SEC on ESPN. ESPN College Basketball Live from Columbia, South Carolina, where there is a big upset brewing at the half. South Carolina leading number 17 Kentucky by 3, 31-28, as the Gamecocks try to snap their 15-game losing streak against ranked opponents. Mark Jones courtside. He's Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy, when you look at what's at stake here for the Wildcats in bracket builder week, there's a lot to play for down by 3.
Absolutely there is, but you know what? If you're John Calipari, you're more concerned about getting this thing right now. Kentucky's not in sync at all on the offensive end. The numbers back it up. His offense right now is stuck and stagnant in terms of man-to-man. Their fight right now has been pretty good because South Carolina's delivered a lot of blows themselves. This is a hard game for Kentucky to win right now because offensively, there's nothing there. If they're not pounding them on the offensive glass, South Carolina probably has a 10-point lead.
Nothing there offensively, as in they shot 17% from the field. As we take a look at the highlights, offensive rebounding kept them in the ball game.
Yeah, Kentucky's getting 72% on the offensive glass. 72%. That's why they're in this ball game still. And their brute strength around the rim and their power is something that I don't know if South Carolina is going to have an answer for in the second half. But they do have an answer in terms of Sindarius Thornwell has been really good as a defender. He's ran the club. He's passed ahead. He's played with his eyes up. He's played low as a 6'6" point guard. And he's made a three-point shot as well. And Sindarius Thornwell right now feels really comfortable and confident against this Kentucky defense, both in transition and the half court.
And a moment ago, Jimmy had a chance to visit with Coach Calipari.
Cal, I'm sure you got a lot of concerns right now at halftime, but you're shooting 17% from the floor. Why is that?
A lot of bumping and grinding, and we want to use it as an alibi. If they're letting all those plays go, body checks, you drive and hip, well, play. What am I going to do now? Get thrown out? I made my point. You're going to let it all go? They do. You have to see how the game is being played and then be mature enough to play that way. So either we'll come out and play through all the bumping and grabbing and all that stuff, or we won't win. I mean, it's really that simple.
Coach, thanks for your time.
He mentioned a key word there, the operative word. You have to have the quote-unquote maturity to see how the game is played and adjust. That, in a nutshell, is the story of Kentucky's season, how fast they can mature.
Important to note, though, Kentucky has been to the free throw stripe 23 times in this game. South Carolina's only been there 10.
Williams with a great drive to start the second half. Brenton Williams, their leading scorer, averaging just under 15 points a game. He has 8. South Carolina in that zone defense. Randall swarmed at the elbow. Spins right into the double team and almost turned it over. Young into traffic and draws the foul.
Kentucky continues to start the half with one guy taking on 3 or 4 defenders.
That's the 4th foul now, Jimmy, on Mindaugas Kitchens.
James Young, and there's just not a lot of offense there. It's all the offensive rebounding is why Kentucky is still in this game. Like I talked about this kid's feet at the free throw stripe, I think he gets them too close together.
How wide should they be?
Well, the same width that he has them apart as a jump shooter. You don't see him take jump shots at the three-point line with his feet that close together. That's a very narrow base that's hard to control up top, so I think there is some consistency problems because of where his base is as a free throw shooter. That's my take on it.
Maybe that's why he's a 66% free throw shooter. And for a guy that shoots much better from the field in three-point territory than most people, you'd expect more. The lob up top. That's the second time they've thrown that pass. Neither had a chance. Young on the drive, couldn't convert. Henry with the board. And a slick move by Thornwell. Great dive. Yukevicius with the slam. Timeout, Kentucky. South Carolina leading by 6. And an upset brewing in Columbia.
Teams out of the SEC, Florida, Kentucky, Arkansas now, and Tennessee are on my jet. There's only 68 seats there. Arkansas has had to look at my jet, which I keep parked in the hangar in Fayetteville for the last 4 or 5 years, wishing I wish I could get on. Now they are.
Well, now they can get beyond that red velvet rope that you keep around it. And off the turnover, South Carolina now with a chance to go up by 8. Here's Williams. Whistle and a foul inside as Carrera was battling Cauley-Stein for position. That's going to go against Willie Cauley-Stein, his 3rd personal foul. And that's going to get Dakari Johnson off of Calipari's bench. Just underway here in the second half. Calipari got hit with a technical foul in the first half. The task at hand for him now, he talked about it with Jimmy Dykes a moment ago, is his team maturing and adjusting to the way the game is being called. Thornwell. Out to Williams. Great drive by Williams, and he draws the foul. He'll go to the free throw line for a pair, really pressing that defense. And that foul is going to go against Harrison, his first.
You've got to guard the ball. If you can't guard the ball, you can't guard the paint. If you can't guard the paint, you can't rebound the ball. And Harrison just gets clipped. That's not a real strong ball screen. He just gets clipped and doesn't fight through it.
Harrison knocks down the first free throw. Graduate of Santa Fe College, where he played for head coach Chris Morey, whose Saints had a great year this year. Finished up 22-9. And a strong showing this season.
I think I've watched some of those games with you on your iPad, right? Isn't that where your son Shea is?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Redshirt freshman. Eight-point ball game and almost a turnover.
Again, though, Mark, just very trying to make something out of nothing. The first side of the floor, the first pass.
They're going to reverse the call, Jimmy, and give the ball. Actually, no, a technical foul on the bench, they're saying. So, you know, what's interesting is, Jimmy, last week, John Calipari talked to us about being able to move on. The buzzword and the keyword being next, and being able to forget some of the things that have been auspicious in the past and move on to the next moment. So far, you'd have to say, I'm not sure they've done a great job at doing that.
No, they have not. They don't have a passing grade right now. The building is hot. The pressure is on Kentucky. They're coming off of a loss against Arkansas, and now they're battling South Carolina, who, at the bottom of this league, is playing tougher. They're playing more together. And they're outworking Kentucky, the same formula that Arkansas used against Kentucky in Rupp Arena.
Williams now, a 10-eye free throw shooter, leads the SEC in foul shooting. Frank Martin's team up by 10. This would easily qualify as the biggest win of his tenure at South Carolina, and this just his 2nd year. And a great opportunity here for the Gamecocks against Kentucky today.
Kentucky cannot get back in this ball game one-on-one with hero shots and my-turn shots. They have to trust each other, move the ball, run offense, and cover each other up on the defensive end and be unselfish on the defensive end.
And Jimmy, once again, Andrew Harrison put his head down and went to the bucket. Drew the foul this time. Fouls against South Carolina's Mindaugas Kaichenis, his first.
You go back and grade Kentucky's film so far. Now, it might change over the remaining 17:35. I'm going to say 90% of their possessions have been a guy with the ball, lowering his eyes, driving the ball to the rim through contact, taking hard shots.
18, now 19 of 27 from the foul line. 9-point lead for South Carolina. Frank Martin told us, though, earlier at shoot-around that they've been in a lot of games this year, but with such a young team being able to close the deal, Jimmy, that's the tricky part. Yukevicius back to Thornwell. Here comes Williams. Closed out on great move to the cup.
He's really good today. The reason why I say that, Kentucky really challenging him and running him off the three-point line, but he has a counter to what Kentucky's doing to him.
Harrison on the drive and kick. Polson for three, short. Out of bounds, South Carolina basketball leading by 11 with just under 17 minutes to go. A frenetic and frantic John Calipari's team down.
I talked about Kentucky having to be unselfish defensively, and that time Dakari Johnson doesn't get low enough. I know he's a 7-footer taking on a 5'10 guy, but as an unselfish defender, you have to sit yourself down and level that guy off and not allow Williams to get to the rim.
That was a heck of a shot. Thornwell into traffic, rejected by Cauley Stein. Harrison wide open, and great hustle, knocked away by the Gamecocks. What a play by Brenton Williams. Tremendous hustle and effort by Williams to knock that pass away.
Kentucky's not going to be able to out-talent themselves to this win. They're going to have to fight. They're going to have to get together. They're going to have to start working. All those issues that John Calipari had concerns with in October, November, December, January, and February, it is now March, and those things continue to rise up on this young ball club.
Willie Cauley Stein rang the alarm for his teammates. Cauley Stein, one of the few key players, rotation players, that returned from last year. He said, guys, we've got to get serious because I remember what happened last year. We ended up in the NIT against Robert Morris, and system failure can happen in a hurry. Yukevicius. Whistle and another foul against Kentucky.
John Calipari is going to go to his best defender, Dominique Hawkins. Andrew Harrison just a half step late on that ball screen handoff action. They're in time to foul.
Still plenty of time, 16 minutes to go. Henry back out to Williams.
Can Hawkins lock in on Brenton Williams? That would be a big bonus for Kentucky if Hawkins can take this kid out of the game for 3 or 4 minutes.
At times they've had to convince Williams to shoot more. He hasn't had a problem getting his jacks up today. 9 on the shot clock. Gets it out. Yukevicius almost went in. Henry underneath. And the stick back. The lead is 13. He's got 4. And the building is turned up. Young on the drive. Poitras with the offensive rebound.
Another hard shot by James Young early in the shot clock.
Boy, Young did well to make that catch. And this is going to be a backcourt violation.
James Young, as a passer, a real problem. Again, Kentucky is in for a fight. How will they respond in a hot building with 15:02 to go? I'm telling you, they're not going to be able to out-talent their way to a victory right now. They're going to have
biggest win of Frank Martin's tenure here as we go inside the play. Jimmy, what's it about?
And this play sums up this ball game right now. It's the heart and the hustle of South Carolina. Watch Brenton Williams at the top of the screen. Now watch what happens when the shot is taken. It looks like Kentucky has a run up, but look at this. You talk about the speed, the effort, and the terrific individual one-on play. Then he takes a hard hit, boom, right into the basket, and he comes up swinging still. That's what Kentucky's up against more than anything else. Kentucky has better talent than South Carolina at all 5 positions. So far, they don't have better heart, they don't have better fight, they don't have better hustle.
Brenton Williams, 14 points in the ball game. Had 26 in that loss against Auburn a few nights ago, but connected on 5 threes. Get a feeling they're going to need some of that hot shooting down the stretch here to close this deal against Kentucky. Bracket builder week. Kentucky could slide a little bit with a loss here.
Got a big guard up top in Thornwell.
There's the lob again. Yeah. This time it connects.
Finally it works. But again, because of Thornwell up top at 6'6", Hawkins put no pressure on the ball.
The whistle and the foul going to go against Yukevicius. No need really to reach over the top that time.
A good job by South Carolina coming out of the timeout. Look at Thornwell, kind of looks it off because it's not a great screen, so a lack of awareness on the back line of Kentucky. But I like what Frank Martin says. I identify I have an advantage with Thornwell over Hawkins. If he can't get the shot off, I know we can win in the passing department. Kentucky's last field goal was at the 7:45 mark of the first half.
That's goaltending. He should have just left that. Carrera a little overzealous that time. But Frank Martin, not to worry, calls out the play from the sidelines. And you look at the side, you were talking about coach's sideline demeanor.
Yep.
Really absent from this game, which has been a trend of late and through the year. Frank Martin has been a lot more calm, a lot more cool, a lot more patient with his troops this year.
You know why? His guys are fighting their tails off today. That's what gets him wrapped.
And he's getting results, too.
Kentucky goes to a press. But what does South Carolina do? They put the shooter on the back end of the press and expose the weakness.
Harrison missing on the drive, and an offensive foul against Kentucky. That might go against Julius Randle.
And raise your hand if you thought when you woke up this morning that South Carolina would blow out Kentucky. And that's what it's looking like right now. South Carolina does a good job of releasing their shooter down the floor against the press. And once they break the diamond, the shooter is wide open in the corner. Very well done by Frank Martin.
16-point lead for South Carolina. A team that only has 3 conference wins this year. And this would really make their season here tonight in front of a pretty much sellout crowd here at Colonial Life Arena. Wayne Notice in the ball game, handling out top against Poitras. Whistle, and look like we're going to get a foul underneath against Harrison. So far, you have to think that Kentucky has not made the adjustment to the whistle. Well, the most storied conference in college athletics lives on a new 24/7 network launching August 2014. Go get SECnetwork.com and demand the network from your TV provider today at SECnetwork.com. As Poitras comes out of the ball game, that's going to be a double foul, actually. Against Henry and Harrison.
So the possession arrow keeps it with South Carolina. Short clock now.
4 on the shot clock. Henry forced to shoot. He did well to hit something, and that's going to be a traveling violation. Boy, so they force a bad shot defensively and then travel on the rebound.
What I like about Willie Cauley-Stein, he had 3 teammates drop their head and drop their shoulders on the travel call, and Willie Cauley-Stein immediately clapping the hands with his eyes up saying, come on, we have to fight. This team should be owned by Willie Cauley-Stein and Julius Randle around the rim on ball reversals.
Here's Thornwell. Kick out to Henry, going to try it again, out of his range. And he shot it way long, and Frank Martin immediately gets off the bench. He's going to get a sub, Ringer, to come in. Tell you what, Demetrius Henry really trying his coach with that ill-advised mid-range jump shot. And Young back at the free throw line, as he talked about his feet. We'll see what he does here and whether the results are good or not. A foul against Henry, so the air ball at one end and at the other end the foul.
I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Kentucky now, trying to get a stop and run that ball up the floor and score in their transition game. They have to do that. They're in a position now where they're going to have to flood the floor with their big wings, throw it ahead, and try to get an angle. Young and either one of the Harrison twins are capable of doing it, and Calipari now comes with a full court press. This time it's man-to-man, so you can't release the shooter on the back end of it if you're South Carolina.
Tell you what, Jimmy, Sindarius Thornwell, the freshman, has to be the best conditioned athlete for that Gamecock team. As much as he has to do night in and night out. Can't remember a time when he's gotten a breather in this ball game, and he's bringing the ball up and playing defense too, and scoring, not to mention. Floater in the lane, got it. More magic from Sindarius Thornwell. Harrison, tough shot, and earns a trip to the stripe. Lead still at 16, but what about Thornwell on cue here?
Well, I said at the half that Sindarius Thornwell looks very comfortable and confident against Kentucky. This time they get the switch, and it's Willie Cauley-Stein, the 5 guy, who's really pretty good at guarding the ball. But Thornwell that time got low as a 6'6" point guard, advantage 0 in white.
Michael Carrera getting set to check into the ball game for Frank Martin. As Harrison makes the first one. Harrison is 79% free throw shooter on the season. As Ejections will sit down.
I don't think you'll see Kentucky, if it's a made free throw, go to the zone press. I think John Calipari is going to stay with a man press, forcing his guys to lock up. Here it comes again, full court pressure, trying to make his guys go to another level in terms of energy and effort.
Well, gets it across midcourt. There's Williams. Notice off the screen. Ringer inside. Well contested that time by Cauley-Stein. And here's Harrison. Here's Twin. And he makes the shot on the baseline. Tough shot by Aaron Harrison.
Mark, that's the angle that I'm talking about that I think we're going to see from Kentucky the next 12 minutes. Can they get that angle in transition? Because when they do, they are very good at scoring or getting fouled at a high rate.
Harrison has 10. There's Notice. Ringer out top. Cauley-Stein gets called for the foul on the reach. Time under the floor. Gamecocks 12 points and minutes away from the major upset. The slam by Ejections. Carrera on the aerial assault. They've only made 7 field goals, but we don't want to discount the accomplishments of the Gamecocks tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been a quicker team for the most part at all 5 spots. They've had more heart and hustle in plays that were meaningful plays in transition defense and just things that you don't draw up. And now Kentucky with a 12-point deficit. Kentucky only shooting 19%. Yes, they are 7 for 36 in this ball game, Kentucky.
Ringer at the free throw line. Nice an opportunity there. I mentioned that South Carolina has had issues and troubles closing out games. They've left a few on the court this year. Some potential wins. Polson on the drive and kick, and he turns it over. Ringer gets it back. Thornwell on the drive. Took the hit. Tipped up and controlled by Randall.
Kentucky get the angle in the break.
Harrison, and that's going to be a blocking foul. Kevin Fair making the call. Harrison will go to the free throw line. That's Aaron Harrison. He's the better of the 2 free throw shooters between him and his twin brother, Andrew.
Jonesy, if Kentucky can get enough stops the remaining 11 minutes, I think they feel good about their ability to just overpower people in transition.
Harrison leaving it short. Came off a tough night in that Arkansas game, just 2 of 12.
John Calipari talking about playing through contact and how the game's going to be called. Well, this is their 33rd free throw stripe in this ball game, so they've done some good things to get to the free throw stripe that many times.
There's that full court pressure by Kentucky. Thornwell able to handle it. Thornwell on the drive-by, whistling a foul. That's going to go against Polson. Thornwell got hit, and he'll get a chance to increase this lead to 13. So there's Thornwell out of Oak Hill Academy. He's all SEC freshman in scoring in SEC games. A foul against Polson. 74% free throw shooter. Recently was the Wayman Tisdale National Freshman of the Week.
And watch the offense by South Carolina. All they did was they had a little over undercut, which got into a 1-4 situation and spread the floor. isolating Sindarius Thornwell against Polson to go one-on-one. And this kid is really good going to his right with a crossover dribble or going to his left after a crossover dribble. So he's an equal-handed 6'6" point guard right now in that freshman class.
South Carolina leading 51-49, leading by 12. Harrison, another tough contested shot. And rebounded by Harrison.
How many times has Kentucky taken the ball right into 2 or 3 white jerseys in this game?
A couple times right there. Randall got ripped by Dwayne Notice, the freshman out of Toronto, with the steal. And John Calipari just got run out of the building. He won't be around to see the end of this one.
I think that's 2 technicals, an accumulation of stuff. Got him in the first half, and Calipari felt like that Carrera fouled Poitras. The call didn't go his way, but again, Kentucky's taken 3 free throw attempts in this game.
They're getting to the foul line, Jimmy.
Yeah, he steps out on the court. You can't allow coach to do it. Well, that's enough is enough is enough.
And Williams made both foul shots to lead up to 14, so Kenny Payne taking charge of the huddle along with Orlando Antigua there. Rod Strickland also part of that coaching staff.
Well, now the pressure is on that brain trust right there to push the right buttons. John Robick at the front of that bench.
Yep. This building is turned up. Approaching the midway point of the second half. South Carolina on the verge of something huge here. Notice with the drive. Got it!
Can't guard the ball, Mark. Kentucky cannot guard the ball at key times in this game. Whether it's Notice or Thornwell, they're having their way.
Harrison back out to his brother. Poitras cross court. Harrison wide open, had an open one, made a tougher one, and he drew the foul on the drive, or maybe it was on the pass. A great play by Dwayne Notice here, breaking out of his slump maybe, Jimmy.
Well, he refuses the ball screen, and Kentucky doesn't communicate. Looks like James Young expecting the ball screen defense to be helping on one side and opens up the other. That's what makes Virginia's defense so good. The game before us, they absolutely do not allow outside drives. They level you off and force you to the elbow.
Nice bucket by Notice. I'll tell you something about this kid here from Toronto. I've known him since he was about 7 years old. Watch him grow up, and he's a young man with a lot of talent and works real hard. And nothing's come to him easy in basketball. He's worked hard to achieve his success and showing signs here tonight of being part of something special for Frank Martin and South Carolina.
I believe he played with Andrew Wiggins on Canada's under-19 team.
Yeah, CIA bounce and on the under-19 team, the basketball Canada team. Well, we talked about Andrew Wiggins. Our coverage of college basketball continues tonight with a showdown in the Big 12. Wiggins in Kansas against Marcus Smart and the Cowboys. Saturday primetime presented by DirecTV. Part of Bracket Builder Week. Kansas, Oklahoma State tonight at 9. Also live on Watch ESPN. Here's the full court pressure. And Poitras tried to call the timeout. Are they going to give it to him? No, can't do it. He was airborne, and they changed the rule. They're not going to give guys timeouts anymore. But Frank Martin now is livid at the near turnover by South Carolina. And that bad pass. 14-point deficit for Kentucky. And South Carolina ice this. Williams out top to Carrera. Williams, the senior. Tough shot. Carrera battling out of bounds, and he walked with it after corralling the rebound. Still get the feeling, Jimmy, that there's one more run maybe left in Kentucky. And there might have been a little bit of method to Coach Calipari's madness in that ejection.
And Kentucky, they run a lot of set plays in the half court, and now John Robick is going to be calling those set plays.
Young way off. That wasn't even close. And Carrera with the rebound.
Wasn't close, and it was very quick. I'm telling you, Kentucky's half-court offense isn't good enough to win this game. They're going to have to get stops and get back in this game off of their transition.
Just looking inside. You figure South Carolina's going to be a little extra patient and deliberate on offense?
Yeah, should be.
Pereira blocked by Poitras with 8 on the shot clock, and Frank Martin off the bench, actually on the court, steaming. He's got those piercing eyes, and he makes the call. He wasn't flexing his muscles for his players' benefit. That's a call. Shot clock winding down. Notice. Long. And Poitras with the rebound. 2-on-1. Randall in transition. And he'll go to the foul line. That has been a popular refrain in chorus today, with Kentucky shooting a ton of free throws. They've shot 35 of them, Jimmy.
Mark, there's a ton of pressure on Kentucky's defense in this game. I'm going to say it again. Their half-court offense is not good enough right now to come back and win this game on the road. They're going to have to get it done on defensive stops, ripping the ball off the defensive board, and forcing the issue in transition.
Tell me about Julius Randle here. Exceptional talent, exceptional skill. Something has happened to him in the last 3 games, along with the team, where offensively now, Jimmy, he is very subpar in the last 3 games now. What is it?
Well, I think this game has summed it up. What has South Carolina done to not only Randall, but everyone else? They continue to put the blue jerseys in a crowd. And they're able to do that because Kentucky keeps taking the ball into the crowd after just the first or second pass. Kentucky in the half court right now is easy to defend.
Randall 7 points, 13 rebounds. Not questioning his effort at all.
Now Julius Randle, no, that dude plays hard.
12-point lead. Here's Williams, Brenton Williams. Notice gets open for 3. Missed another one.
Kentucky needs to go.
Chance to cut it to 10 here for the Wildcats. Young on the drive, nowhere to go, but he draws the foul from Brian Steele.
You just sense that Kentucky feels like exactly what I'm talking about. Let's get enough stops and get ourselves and our big bodies and our ability to just bully you in transition back into this ball game.
Young going to go to the free throw line. Right around 66% coming into the game on the season. Young, a young man who, growing up, idolized former Kentucky Wildcat Tayshaun Prince. Had a very successful career in the NBA. 6 for 31 on 2-point field goal attempts for the Wildcats tonight. But they got the lead down to 10, a very workable margin. And the crowd senses it too.
Now the big blue nation in Columbia is on their feet.
Williams,
too quick.
And a chance to get it to 8.
That was way too quick by Brenton Williams.
Kept saying for the last couple of minutes, can South Carolina close the deal? Young into traffic. Still a lot of time. Here's Randall. Harrison for 3. Short. And a strong rebound by Steele. Had it knocked away out of bounds. Timeout on the floor.
I think it's Kentucky's ball. They're starting to fight with 7:26 to go.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Audi, Truth in Engineering, and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of chocolate and peanut butter.
To Columbia, South Carolina, Mark Jones courtside along with Jimmy Dykes. Right now, an upset brewing. South Carolina leading by 10. Just under 7.5 to go as we take a look at today's Wendy's Wooden Watch and the numbers for Julius Randle. Remember that next Saturday, the 15 finalists will be announced on game day. And he's been struggling tonight. It has been laborious tonight for him.
He's 0 for 5 because he's had to play through contact. He's had to play through a crowd, and he's taken the ball into the crowd, as this entire Kentucky team has for much of this ball game. A lot of white jerseys surrounding him, forcing him to make tough plays. He's over 5. He's gotten to the free throw stripe 8 times. He's made 7 of them, but he has 13 boards. But his fight and his determination, as that entire Kentucky group over there has gone to another level, you can almost sense it over here over the last couple of minutes. Will it be enough, and can they sustain that fight over the next 7:24 and give themselves a chance?
If you're just joining us, South Carolina led by 3 going into the break. Here's Harrison for 3, and here come the Wildcats, down by just 7 now. John Calipari ejected from the game moments ago as well, if you're just joining us.
Kentucky finally made South Carolina pay for 2 guys covering 1.
Here's Notice. Top. Kevicius back out to Notice. Splits the double in traffic and gets it to go. Dwayne Notice doing it.
Man, there was a ton of contact on that basket by Notice to just get up and play on. And that's not how we call the game, or should be calling the game.
The lead back up to 9. This zone defense has really confounded Kentucky at times, but Dakari Johnson with some bully ball on Kevicius for the bucket.
And John Robick calls off the press. He's going to try to trust his half-court defense right now. Willie Cauley-Stein getting set to check in.
7-point lead for the Gamecocks. Thornwell had it knocked away by James Young. And after 28 games, Jimmy, 15 conference games, the question begs now, has South Carolina learned in a critical and pivotal situation like this how to finish off a game?
Absolutely.
7 freshmen, 8 newcomers.
And has Kentucky learned how to fight back in a ball game? 2 lessons right now that are still unanswered with 6:05 to go.
Notice toward the last bucket. Here's Williams with 9 on the shot clock. Thornwell, tough fadeaway. Herrera tried to keep it alive, and great hustle by Alex Poitras. They can cut it to 5.
A momentum-changing, possible game-changing effort play by Poitras.
.15 on the shot clock. Harrison for 3. This one no good, and a great rebound by Carrera. He has really gotten into the coach's good favor and ways with the performance tonight.
Absolutely he has. For a 6'6" dude, ripping down rebounds amongst the size of Kentucky. Frank Martin knows his guys only had one chance today, was to out-effort Kentucky in every area. But in the last 3 minutes now, I've seen Kentucky start to answer that bell as well. Alex Poitras was another effort, heart play, fight play, that we're not going to go away type play that you have to have. A good call. He was awfully close to hitting the deck before he released that basketball. John Robick handling that huddle right now really well. Again, can they get enough stops and get enough transition baskets? That is the question for Kentucky in this ball game.
Remember, this is a team that is coming off a tough game in their last run, an overtime loss at home against Arkansas. As for Frank Martin, I wonder what the message was to his team in that last huddle. There's a guy that told us at practice earlier today, he said, man, I've played more zone and boxes and ones than he has his entire career, just making things work this year with this very young lineup.
He said the last time he played boxing one was in 1986 when he was the JV coach against Miami Edison.
Yeah,
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, at Miami High. Great high school coach, a legendary program down there on just off of Okeechobee.
Kentucky has to guard the ball. That's where they've been vulnerable all season long.
There's Notice out top. Working against Johnson. And a steal by Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, they guard the ball, and they did it by being unselfish. Willie Cauley-Stein comes off of his guy and becomes a very good shadow defender, help defender, and gets the steal. The fight level of Kentucky is the difference in this game the last 3 minutes. It has gone to another level. It is now matching the fight level of South Carolina.
Willie Cauley-Stein basically showing, and earlier this week telling his team that at some point you got to plant your feet and make a statement. And that's what they've done over the last couple of possessions, Jimmy.
Jonesy, watch Willie Cauley-Stein. He's the second defender involved in this play. And you're going to watch him go to work right here. As this ball comes towards him, an unselfish defender, he levels it off, and then with a long wingspan, just chews up the pass of notice.
Stein, the former high school wide receiver. 4:44 to go. I misspoke a little bit ago talking about Miami High. It's downtown just off of 8th Street. In the shadows of 8th Street in downtown Miami. Look at our games coming up next. Iowa State, Kansas State, UC Santa Barbara, UC Davis, and Kansas, Oklahoma State coming up at 9 o'clock. Young got the 3 ball, and it's a 4-point game with plenty of time.
Out of the timeout, John Robick goes to a screening the top of the zone and gets their best shooter, although he's sporadic, Young, a wide open look.
Who does South Carolina go to for a bucket? Williams rips through, took the hit, and drew the contact. That'll be a 2-shot foul.
Got to guard the ball. You're going to see again a screen's going to be set somewhere in this part of the floor, which is going to set up the ball reversal against the zone. Boom, there's Willie Cauley-Stein. Spreads out now. It's 2-on-1 on the weak side. And that put Thornwell in a bad position. He had to come at the basketball, and Young dials it up. Very nice job by Robick to see what he wanted to get done, communicate it to his young team in a pressured building, and then go out to execute.
Brenton Williams, the best free throw shooter in the SEC at about 96%. Mentioned earlier, began his collegiate career at Santa Fe College. Playing for Chris Mowry, Mid-Florida Conference. A great year, misses the second one. A rare miss for him. 20 points in the ball game.
Jones in the open. Our opening comment about this game. Would Kentucky finally come together and fight? The calendar now says March. We're going to find out with under 4 to go.
Harrison on the drive. Wild shot with nowhere to go. And Carrera controls. Both arms around the ball.
That's guarding yourself is what that's doing. Absolutely guarding yourself to drive the ball in with nowhere to go and try to fire one up off balance and hope the officials bail you out with a call.
There's Carrera out top. Little dribble handoff action. And they get into their set. That's going to be an offensive foul against Jekevicius. 3:24 to go. Timeout on the floor. South Carolina clinging to a tenuous 5-point lead. And Frank. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Back here, 5-point game. 3:24 to go. South Carolina leaking a little bit of oil, though. They were leading 53-39 when Calipari got ejected. Since then, Kentucky on a 14-5 run. Jimmy, how have they done it?
Well, they've done a better job on their half-court offense, although it's still not great. They take a lot of hard shots. But they did a good job, Robick did, against the zone a couple of times. And the bottom line is their fight level, their try level, their effort, all those things have now matched what South Carolina has thrown at them all game long in this building. And they are in a hole, but you know, Kentucky really, they don't have a lot of room to complain about the contact in this game. They've taken 39 free throws to South Carolina's 21.
Yep. And we are in Columbia, despite all the blue that you see in the arena here. There's a look at the runs since Calipari was ejected. Carrera goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line, a 65% free throw shooter. The lead up to 6. Under 3.5 to go.
A little bit of full court token pressure just to slow Kentucky down to give them even less time to work with in the half court.
Harrison gets free on the Cauley-Stein screen and hits the 3. Great call from the sideline and a great bit of execution. That might be the cleanest run play they've had all day, Jim.
Yeah, John Robick now 3 times against this zone is just using a simple ball screen. And remember the last time Thornwell didn't come and attack the ball, he was more concerned about Young. Well, this time, there it is. He gets attracted to Young, and now it's Harrison that jumps up and sticks it. So that ball screen of Willie Cauley-Stein up top is something that Frank Martin's going to have to address. Does he change his zone? Does he go back man-to-man? He told us earlier today, in his gut, he felt like he would start this game man-to-man, play zone a big chunk of the middle of it, and try to finish it up man-to-man. Does he go now to that defense knowing that Kentucky has something good going on across the top?
Hey, where's Jadeveon Clowney when you need him, huh?
running a really fast 40-yard dash somewhere, right? That's what he's doing.
They could use him on defense right now. Look at the timeout situation. The game reset. Both teams shooting 2 free throws on the fouls. 3:11 to go. And you mentioned Kentucky has gone to the foul line an exorbitant amount of times tonight, 39, and their head coach right now watching it from the locker room. So South Carolina, boy, Jimmy, you wonder where the basket's going to come from. Is it Brenton Williams? Is it Thornwell? Seems like their 2 top guns offensively have gone really silent in the last several trips down the floor.
Yeah, if I'm South Carolina, I want the ball in the hands of Thornwell. Late clock, going one-on-one. His ability to at least get to the free throw stripe is something that I would zero in on.
Here's Thornwell. Kentucky with just a 30-second timeout remaining. Dribble handoff action. Thornwell on the switch on Cauley-Stein. He's defended really well tonight. Henry out of his range. 10 on the shot clock for Williams. Good defense by the Wildcats. 6 on the shot clock. Thornwell, tough shot. Carrera kept it alive. Whistle and a foul going to be called as Jukevicius put it up off the rebound.
Mark, that was all, though, the big shoulders of Carrera continuing to battle the size inside of Kentucky, because Carrera's probably given away 5 or 6 inches. But watch right here, boom. His hands get up and keep that ball alive. And boy, 24 and White has been a major player in this ball game. Credited with 7 rebounds, but he's probably kept another 3 or 4 alive that he doesn't have beside his name right now.
Jukevicius knocks down the free throw. One man from Lithuania makes it a 4-point game. Young comes in for Poitras.
What is Frank Martin going to do on the other end? Because his 2-3 zone has given up some good looks for Kentucky over the last 3 minutes. Does he go back to his man? Does he change the top of the zone and make it more like a 3-2 zone to offset the screening action? But again, he's going to extend his defense, giving Kentucky less time in the half court to operate with.
Notice picking up full court man. Carrera was coming on the trap. And they stay in their zone, Jimmy, it looks like.
And it hasn't changed. It's a 2-3 zone. You know Kentucky's going to try to screen it again with Willie Cauley-Stein. There's the screen.
Harrison couldn't find a shot off of it. Drives it right through the paint. Wild shot off glass, no good, out of bounds. And it's going to be Kentucky basketball still. With plenty of time on the shot clock, it's at 12.
I wish you owed me a dinner every time you use the term wild shot tonight in this ball game.
Yeah, when it hits the glass and not even close to the rim, that would be wild.
And it's a good, no, I'd say it's a good description of what Kentucky has done a lot.
There's Randall, who's been quiet for 3. And that's going to be a foul against Cauley-Stein, who threw Carrera to the court. And that's his 5th personal foul. One more look at it. They're wrestling underneath. And I'm not so sure about that. Maybe Carrera lost his balance.
It looked a lot worse live than it did on the replay.
Sure
Randall
did.
Forced into a 3-point shot with a short clock. And that's a big hit. Willie Cauley-Stein only 2 points in this game. So the kind of the roller coaster ride of Willie Cauley-Stein continues this season. He was outstanding against Arkansas and then gets nothing done today for the Wildcats.
2 points, 5 rebounds. 2:02 to go. Five-point game, 2:02 to go. Mark Jones courtside along with Jimmy Dykes. This would easily be the biggest win of Frank Martin's 2-year tenure here in Columbia, South Carolina. Got it an average of 23 games a season as the head coach at Kansas State, his previous stop. And it has been a arduous, enduring year with a talented head coach. Off the miss, Kentucky back quickly And Harrison will stop the clock, drawing the foul, and will get 2 free throws with just under 2 minutes to go.
That continues to be Frank Martin's biggest concern in this game. Kentucky in transition with size coming in at an angle. They cannot stop the basketball. Kentucky now with a 41st or 42nd free throw attempt in this game.
Aaron Harrison makes the first. Harrison about 79% from the line on the season, closer to 80 now. 10 of 11 today. Makes both. 4-point game. Thornwell with possession.
That same over-undercut that South Carolina initiates their offense, taking away any type of pressure that Kentucky can put on you on that point-to-win pass.
Randall on the switch, driving notice. Kentucky switching a lot of things out on the edges there, Jimmy.
And that's what they do. They trust their size to guard the basketball.
8 on the shot clock. Somebody's got to go soon. Thornwell, why not? Wild hook shot, and the tip good by Yekevicius.
And that's the issue when you switch out like that. Sometimes it doesn't show up with a throw to the low post. It throws up with the inability to keep size off of the backboard.
Young from deep. Got it! A huge shot by James Young. And a timeout called by Kentucky. That's their last timeout.
Mark, let's go back. This is what South Carolina does to you. Randall came out on a switch, so now James Young is assigned to the 5 guy. And James Young doesn't do a good job of getting inside and taking out the leg strength of the big. And then the answer, boom. Kentucky's been a quick shot team all game long in their half court. They've taken a ton of quick shots, a ton of hard shots in contact and in a crowd. James Young just stuck one. He's 2 big ones now in the last 5 minutes. One from the far side, one from the near side, and Kentucky still has life.
Yeah, Young is now 3 of 5 from downtown, Jimmy. 8 of 10 from the line. I'll say one thing about this Kentucky team. If nothing else, they have not quit today. They have played hard with their backs to the wall.
Yep.
They've responded. With 1:11 to go. These last 4 or 5 minutes probably seem like an eternity to Frank Martin in South Carolina.
Frank has 3 timeouts left. If his guy gets hung up or they get to a situation where it doesn't look good, he can go to a set play off of a timeout.
Under a minute to go. South Carolina leading by 3. Looking to end their 15-game losing streak against ranked opponents. Plenty of time on the shot clock.
Got the same switch-out problem, so the size at the rim takes over. Well done by South Carolina.
Yekevicius with a huge bucket. And Frank Martin wants to set his defense here.
What has Frank Martin done to the switching defense of Kentucky? He hasn't fought it. He's welcomed it. And he says if they're going to continue to switch it, let's make sure we go inside either off the bounce and hurt them on the offensive glass, or this time just a straight post up right in front. Harrison doesn't battle. He loses position right there. And as a small defender playing from behind, it's lights out. You've got to continue to fight over the top of it and discourage that pass. The switching defense that's been so good to Kentucky for a lot this season has hurt them on the last 2 possessions.
Folks, don't forget, coming up next, College Game Day presented by State Farm, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma, as Kansas and Joel Embiid take on Marcus Smart and Oklahoma State. 44.3 seconds to go. The Gamecocks on the verge of the biggest win in a couple of years here. It would be a great leaping off point for something big for Frank Martin and his program. And he talked about some of the encouraging text messages he's received from some of his colleagues who've encouraged him to stay with the process. Your team is getting better. Hang in there.
Well, there's no greater model to do that than what the women's program has done here under Don Staley, because they're at the very bottom of SEC, and they were crowned SEC champions last week and fighting for a #1 seed. That's what Kansas has at stake in that ball game tonight in Stillwater. They win that game, I think Kansas slides up to a 1 seed, and Syracuse bounces back to a 2.
Part of bracket builder week. Kentucky trying to avoid a precipitous slide and a repeat of the ending of last year. Harrison into the front court. And a turnover by Young. And Williams with possession and a foul by Harrison.
James Young just coughs it up. You get him dribbling the ball away from the basket. That's a real weakness in his game. Weakness as a passer and weakness just in terms of making plays off the bounce, reversing the basketball. Can he go to the rim off of 1 or 2 dribbles? Yes, but anything else, it's a real gamble for him, I think, under pressure.
That was as unforced an error and turnover as we've seen all night. Williams, the best foul shooter in the conference, one of the top free throw shooters in the nation at 96%. Makes it at least a 2-possession game. Maybe more if he makes this one, which he does. 7-point lead. Who would have thought when the day started that South Carolina would be in this position right now with time winding down on number 17 Kentucky, a 3-ball good. It's a 4-point game.
No timeout, so they're going to have to get done.
And a steal. Poitras inside. Randall fouled and won miraculously. Unbelievable and implausible. Right back in it with 22 ticks to go.
Josie, that is the fight that Kentucky somehow got a hold of in this building 5 or 6 minutes ago. That's the only reason they have a chance still in this ball game.
His first field goal tonight at the most opportune time for Kentucky.
Well, the 3-point shot goes down, and then Julius Randle. He closed out the game against LSU with a similar play right in front of the rim. But again, Kentucky doesn't make that kind of play probably the first 30 minutes of this game. Just the last 10 has their try level gone to a level that they can come back.
An incredible, inexplicable unfolding of circumstances here with 22 seconds to go. This game was over, folks, seconds ago. It was a 3-possession game. Thornwell fouled by Harrison. Even if he makes both, Kentucky will still have a shot to tie it with a 3. Thornwell, a 74% foul shooter. Let's take a look at those 2 plays that put Kentucky right back in it.
Well, watch Harrison again. Because he's 6'5", he has no other choice but to jump up and stroke one, making a guarded shot against Thornwell. And then right here, boom. Terrific effort by Young. I've killed him as a passer and as a handler in this game, but he comes up with a big-time defensive play with his long wingspan. And Kentucky will not go away with 20 to go.
Boy, you can't find atonement any better than that if you're James Young.
Absolutely.
2 huge ones here for Thornwell. And he calmly knocks down the first.
Kentucky with no timeouts, with John Robick trying to communicate with his guys right now what he wants. A make or miss.
If he makes this,
what does he call?
Do you go for a quick 2 or do you go for the 3 here?
That's what Kentucky's strength is right now, a quick 2. Okay. Absolutely. Extend the length of this game. Keep the pressure on South Carolina. Give yourself a chance.
Thornwell. 3-point game. And Frank Martin wants to set his defense. What are you thinking here if you're Frank Martin? Are you looking at extending your defense, make him use some time to bring it up, or you playing it safe, Jimmy?
No, I think that's what he's been doing the last 3 or 4 minutes. It's showing just enough token pressure, not anything close enough to put yourself in a fouling position, just enough to slow Kentucky down and then get your half-court defense set. Nothing changes for Kentucky right now. You come down and you drive. What have you done all game long? Good or bad, what has Kentucky done all game long? They've driven that basketball and tried to cut this thing and extend the length of the game. If you're John Robick, though, I would say this. He has a pretty good feel right now as a play caller. John Robick does, since John Calipari's been kicked out. I think he's been very good with his play calls. So does he have something right now in his back pocket that says, look, if I can free up James Young for a clean 3, let's let it fly, or one of the Harrisons. If not, boom, quickly drive that thing at the rim. Let's score, get fouled, and continue to extend the length of this game.
South Carolina showing a little 3-quarter court pressure here. 20 seconds to go. Kentucky out of timeouts. South Carolina with 1 30-second timeout remaining.
There's your answer. Frank Martin, it's just a little bit of pressure to slow Harrison down as he brings it up. Going to work off of the horn series.
I wonder if they're going to try and foul. No, Young inside the line for 3. Short. Loose ball out of bounds. South Carolina basketball.
Good defense by South Carolina to know that James Young is going to be primary option number 1. They went to a little dribble handoff action and just lit it up when Young came off with it.
And it looks like they're going to go to the table.
And that allows, well, that allows Robick to talk to his guys, but if this thing goes in favor of South Carolina, big advantage. That's what I'm talking about. Thornwell did a pretty good job of fighting and trailing hard against Young, and then Young is a bad passer, and Poitras had to shoot a bad pass. That's a closer call than what I thought initially. They'll have to have a better angle than what we just saw to make the decision.
That one's inconclusive from what we saw.
Maybe the baseline camera picked it up for us.
I believe the ruling on the floor was South Carolina basketball.
It was.
We're going to look at this one.
PA system making the announcement that please stay off the court. I'm in full favor of shutting down court storms. This court is for players and officials. The stands are for fans. Would we allow, let me ask you this, would we allow a visiting team like Kentucky, if they were to win this game, to run up in the stands to start celebrating? Would we allow that?
No.
Then why do we allow the fans to come down and get right in everybody's business?
Yeah. And it looks like they got a little bit of rope here that they're putting up around the court.
There is a I believe, Mark, it's a $25,000 fine that Mike Slive implemented a few years ago if you storm the court. And therefore, you see better security in buildings around the SEC because they don't want to pay that fine.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy, they're looking at this one a long time. If it is Kentucky basketball and they get possession down 3, if you're John Calipari, do you want to foul and make them shoot 2 so they don't have a chance for the 3?
Well, I don't know if Calipari has a monitor in the locker room to know what position they're in.
Frank Martin.
Yeah,
Frank Martin.
I know what you're saying.
Frank Martin.
Well, here's the danger of that. If you're John Robick, if you do get this ball back, you know the option is for South Carolina to foul. I tell my guys, if you catch the ball and you feel a defender coming at you, get into your shot motion. Okay. Absolutely get into your shot motion. That's the gamble, Mark, that you have if you choose to foul right now. Now, if you don't foul and Kentucky throws in the 3, you get crushed. You get crushed on Twitter, in the media, by everybody else. And you know what? That has factored into coaches' decisions now, what they do. This might be our best look at it. And Randall, I don't think there's anything there to overturn what they called live. I don't.
Yeah, that's inconclusive from that angle, it looks like. No. But yeah, back to the whether you foul or not as we take another look, and that's what we saw initially. It's something that coaches have to coach during practice in terms of learning how to foul and when situationally.
By that replay, it looked like the ball went opposite of the direction that Young was coming.
South Carolina basketball.
South Carolina's ball. All they have to do is get it in and cover it up.
It hasn't been that easy today.
It has not. But they do have a timeout left. They are frozen on the baseline. And Frank Martin, during all that timeout, did he talk about all the scenarios? A good official will remind you, you are frozen. Can they get it in right now and see it?
Thornwell. That's a little bit late. Yukevich is inbounding. Did he get it there in time? Can't run the baseline as we noted. Run the baseline after a made bucket.
I like Yukevich just because he's tall, he has vision. I don't like his passing instincts.
You don't want to pass it and hit the underside of the back.
No, there's a lot for Yukevich just to work through right now. The ball should be out of bounds over here. That's exactly right. That's where the ball went off of.
Good officiating. Moving to the other side.
Someone from South Carolina, they just have to go get open. The game's on the line. Can you get yourself open?
Cut hard. And the foul is going to go against Kentucky on the push. There's a pushing foul. There's going to be free throws at the other end. One more look.
Good pressure on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's holding him.
Yeah, Harrison had a full hand at Jersey. Aaron Harrison held on to Williams, and that's his 5th foul. There's no doubt about that. The replay showed that
it's an easy call to make, really. Grab of the jersey is an easy call to make.
Going to be a couple foul shots here by the best free throw shooter in the SEC, Brent Williams. If he makes one here, it's pretty much a done deal. As much as I would think to hesitate to say that, as crazy as this last minute has been. Williams with 22 points. He's gone 13 of 14 from the line. And it's nothing but strings. And Thornwell looking up at this near sellout crowd here at Colonial Life Arena. And it might be time to set it off. Williams, good. Pointing skyward, giving thanks. Kevichus out of the ball game. And it's a 5-point lead for the Gamecocks.
Mark, the questions about Kentucky, as we're now into March, will continue to swirl around this club. Are they ever going to come together for a full 40 minutes and fight you every possession? And their half-court offense has a ton of work to do over the next couple of weeks.
And a foul called against the Wildcats to punctuate the type of day that it's been for them. With 2.3 seconds to go, this one is cooked, glazed, and about to be sliced. South Carolina on the verge of its 11th win on the season, 4th conference win, and their first win against a ranked opponent in 16 tries. Frank Martin, Gamecocks take a bow.
Well, the security didn't work too well, did it, partner?
They need a better rope.
Well, for South Carolina, you take down Kentucky, maybe it is worth a $25,000 fine.
Frank Martin's team with their biggest win in about 2 years. 72-67 the final score. It's Gamecocks tonight.